Hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest Microsoft Reactor topic. We are covering off in the productivity series for our Copilot Corner, the number 7. I know, right, we're up to number 7. We're actually covering off Excel today, which I'm a little excited about. I don't think I realized just how much I actually use it in Excel till I went back and started to think about what kind of demos I wanted to do today. So getting ourselves in and started. The presentation is actually available for you and online. My name is Kirsty McGrath, and I'm here to actually be able to support you. And any information that you actually would like to find is available all online. You can also go in and do the scan of the QR code. I am the director of a consulting company called On Point Solutions, and I'm a 7 times Microsoft MVP. So hopefully in another 2 days or so, we'll find out if I've got number 8. Here we go. Let's get under it. Don't forget, we've actually got more sessions that are coming apart from Excel, which is right now. We've got OneNote, Loop, Whiteboard, Forms, and potentially a few more coming after that because there's lots of new topics that are always coming out all of the time. The previous recordings can actually be found on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel, or you can see them on also my YouTube channel, which is called M365 Adoption. So I'm going to be going through a few different functionalities today. Don't forget, in previous sessions, we've actually gone through things like, Copilot prompts and understanding the taxonomy and how to actually do the prompting. So I'm not going to be diving into how do you build or create a prompt and what does that look like. I've gone through that in a previous session. So in terms of where will you find it, across 365, don't forget, you're going to get Copilot in lots of applications. So anywhere you can see in my wheel that's actually got, kind of the icon running across it, you're in terms of the button, top right-hand corner, which will actually bring your pane running down that right-hand side. So the great part about then that pane means I've now got, the ability to start working in chat. So apart from having the pane over here on the right, you do have in your content inside. So if you click on any cell or choose a range of cells, it will actually give you your icon, so your Copilot icon inside the Excel spreadsheet that you can then go off the back of that, and you've got certain, commands that you can actually click based on what it is looking at. So from here, autosave needs to actually be on for you to work in your document. And like if you're physically going to Excel, there's 2 things you actually need. 1, a Copilot license. For you to be able to work inside Excel, either you've got your Copilot Pro if it's in the consumer side, so you can have it with your license you bought from JB Hi-Fi or Harvey Norman, whoever the retailer is that you're of choice, whether you purchase it online, you can actually get your Pro subscription. Or you've got your Enterprise, so your Microsoft 365 Enterprise, so you get your Copilot license. You're going to need that. Not only that, but when you open up Excel, for you to start working with Copilot, if it is grayed out, it's usually because you need to turn on autosave. So your document has to actually be in the cloud. So this means it's got to be in OneDrive and or SharePoint for it to work. Okay, so 2 things. Getting ourselves started. So from there, more often than not, Copilot will like things to be in a table, and we'll go and have a look at that, one in a table. And it also likes information where all kind of cells and continuous kind of information and data is available. However, it can actually help you to work with that sort of thing if there are kind of gaps and missing information across your particular spreadsheet. So a couple of things to take into consideration. So what are the things that I actually do in Excel, or what can Copilot do in Excel? 1, it can go and do sort of analysis and give you some insights. Lots of different ways that you can summarize and you can aggregate and analyze your data. Creating charts and pivot tables. You can go and edit, find, replace, sort, filter. Now, these are things that I do all the time. Add, delete. Okay, fun stuff. Adding in columns, formulas, text analysis. There's Python. I use the actual Python kind of coding and the deeper analysis quite a bit. And then even help, give us some help and it will help you out a little bit. So what are the fun things that I generally like to do with Copilot? I do a lot of data analysis. So I will get it to scan tables and highlight some of the key insights along the way. I'll also do some modeling. So I go and kind of test all of these different scenarios, a lot of what if scenarios, or can you model how that change to something might actually affect. So this is scenario based kind of modeling, the what if. So you can actually add those in as, some add-ons in terms of doing scenarios, but you can just do modeling and ask it. Visualization, charts, graphs, images. I regularly would do things like word clouds, probably because I live more in that people space and I do a lot of surveys. I like to be able to go based on some open-end questions. Can you create a word cloud? I'm going to play with one of those soon. Doing visualizations like charts and graphs, images, words, the writing of formulas, then in getting in calculations, because sometimes I know formulas, like I teach to a super user level across Excel. However, there are a lot that you get sometimes really complex formulas, and I kind of go, I know it might be this, and instead of me sitting there forever trying to work it out, I get it to do it for me, and it builds out quite complex formulas, which I love. Cleaning up messy data and spaces and combining and duplicates and just that kind of the formatting. Can I have everything in capitals, or could you put it in sentence case, for example? I do this all of the time because on surveys I end up with a lot of data that's quite messy depending on how people type it in. I also look at things like insights. I like to be able to see some patterns and trends, and is there anything that's an outlier or relationships with the type of analysis that I actually do, because I'm always doing an analysis of organizations and how they're going on their adoption and learning curves for Microsoft 365. I do a lot of analytical work. Okay, then we get into things like automating of tasks. So you can write VBA coding and automating that sort of functionality. And then I will regularly get it to give me some suggestions of what I could even do with that data. Is there anything you might recommend around formulas or functions, or, give me a bit of an idea of maybe some next steps of what I could do with this? Because sometimes I'm limited by my knowledge, so it helps me kind of step outside of it. Now, it does say in there, you've got the plus button, you can go, I want to insert an image. So there are certain things that I will do or look at, or there are some limitations that I also tend to look at when I'm dealing with Excel. Now, in terms of some of the data processing capabilities, I will do things like duplicate and do some detection. So removing duplicate entries. I really like doing that. It makes my life so much easier. I'll be able to do that. Consistent formatting. I will have it where someone will go, I'll go, what technology, you can see it. I've already done it, I think, on the spreadsheet I'm going to play with. But, with Teams, it was capital T to lowercase t to up, everything was in uppercase, and I got it to fix it. Missing that data handling, so strategies where I've got incomplete data. And I do lots of sort of data validation as well. So where it can see inconsistencies and any potential errors along the way, errors in formulas too, and giving me a bit of help. They're all things that I would get involved in as a bit of an idea for you. Not only that, but when it comes to those image files, so the types that are supported. So when you go, I want to insert an image, more often than not, I will need to make sure that it sits within these boundaries of the type of images. So if you have TIFF files, for example, it's not actually going to work. And I mean, I happen to know in my family, I've got a family member that only deals in TIFF. It's like, no, sorry, you're going to need to convert those over. Don't forget, you've actually got your prompt gallery there. So when I go into Excel and I go, I want to have a look at some of the prompts, there's over 300 prompts there for you to be able to go in and have a look at inside Excel to help and support you. Now, if you want to, you can go that little bit further, and you've got the prompt gallery in Excel, but you might only have a couple that come up. So go see all prompts and then filter it down to Excel, so you can start to have a look at, what are the possibilities? Because more often than not, we don't know what are the kind of the boundaries around this at the moment. And look, it's always changing too, because as quick as we don't have functionality, we do have functionality. It used to be in the past that we actually had to kind of click inside a table for it to look at that table, whereas now we can direct it to, that's all kind of coming down the line, and it will recognize tables on a particular page and those boundaries around it without you having to select and choose it. So these things then start to kind of come into play. So from there, I have put in a few fun prompts, things that I kind of play around with or do, or that Microsoft have actually got recommended for you. So they're all available for you to be able to have a play with. So let's go now have a bit of a play in Excel. Let's go look see. Now, I'm going to just bring up some really basic kind of raw information. There's not a lot on this particular spreadsheet, but I'm going to go a little bit further along the way. Now, when I get in here, I have my Copilot button here. But if I go, so say if I go, I want to do a brand new document. So I go Control N and I come in and it goes start kind of with Copilot. You'll see in here, I've got open up. We'll go Copilot. It will see autosave. So it wants me to have that on first. So I've got to go do a file save as. So if I go turn on autosave, it's going to go, where do you want it to go? For example, business, personal. So you do have to do that first save. But from there, so say I've got some data like this. Now in here, I can go, there's some quick buttons. Suggest a formula column, for example. Now, based on this data, it's pretty simple. I got 3 columns, it's a quarter. So it will probably suggest, first and foremost, you might want to sum this up. Okay, there we go. Sum. And here's the formula. So if I go insert that column and I have a look at it, now see how it's actually written out the column because it's dealing with a table. And if I go in, now it's not something that I can then go and copy and paste this particular formula somewhere else because often it's really relevant to the data that I've got sitting in here. Sometimes I will look at it, and if I'm copying and pasting it from one place to the other, it will even embed things like the sheet name, for example. So it will always kind of be looking back if I copy and move it to another sheet. So please take that into consideration as you go, I like that formula, I want to use it somewhere else. There are some things you need to take into consideration. Okay, so from here, it's dropped in my formula quite nicely for me. It's inserted that column, done. Now from here, I could go suggest some conditional formatting. When I'm working with conditional formatting, so up the top here, conditional formatting, more often than not, I'm doing information where it's highlighting greater than or less than. And as part of this, it's focused usually on a cell. The one thing that I do like about this is it's not even just cells. You could come in and go highlight the row when it's less than a particular amount in a certain quarter. Now, if you didn't like what it was actually stating there, you could actually type in your own. I'm just going to choose what's there. Go highlight less than. So now what I'm doing is highlighting the row instead of just a cell with my conditional formatting. Now that is to me a power because a lot of times when I'm working on it, so I go, yeah, I want to do that. Is that the yellow? I want that cut. That's fine. I'm happy with that. Okay, so it's going to apply it. A lot of people struggle with highlighting rows because you do need to understand the formula to actually put it into the conditional formatting to be able to do that. And I'd have to go more rules and build it all out with a formula. So it just does it for me. I love it. Okay. So now it's applied that. I can do other functional formatting such as bold the first column. So sure, I can do that. There it goes. Let's do a better bold. I could then say, can you filter based on a particular state? Let's do it. Bolding. Okay. Apply. And there we go, bold. Maybe I'll go, filter based on the state. And I'll go, I want it to be New South Wales. And it could also be New South Wales over a certain amount or for a particular division. So if I just go, just filter it, I could come in, of course, and go click on and do a filter. However, it will actually apply it for me. Done. So what I like about this is in its simple form, just doing New South Wales, it's probably not going to be faster than me going and clicking a button because I'm having to type and wait. It would have been quicker. But where it gets a real value is if I've got big sheets and I want to filter by multiple columns, that's when you get the richness really starts to come out of it, okay? So there's certainly plenty here to be able to play with. So if I just go, I want to remove that, I can go clear out from state. From here, it could then be, and I could go back to the very top because I've got deeper analysis, highlight, some, I can do analysis. I might just go, for example, let's see, I'm going to go just do some data insights. Let's do that. Can you just show me some data insights? Now, this is really simple information. So here we go. So it's giving me a bit of a bar chart. We analysed, and this is what we've actually found, to put it onto a bar chart, and I could add that to a new sheet. However, can I see other insights? Actually, I'm just going to put all those insights on a grid. Let's just get it to put them all on a grid. So now what's happening, and I'll just make this just a little bit smaller. It's going, these are all the potential insights that it can actually give me based on the data that I've got. Now, that's not a particularly complex table of data. So I do like the fact that there's all these potential correlations and insights and what's the frequency, things I would never have thought of when it came to that simplistic data. Not only that, but what I like is it also gives me a pivot table. You could ask for a pivot table to be able to work with. But here I've got all of that information. These are active charts, so I can change around the information if I wish to. So that's kind of getting it started. Now, say I've got, other content. Let's have a look at some of the other content. I'm going to start a whole new chat because I don't want to continue on because it's focused on another sheet and I'm on a different sheet now. So here I am, I've got some data that the sort of thing I might actually do is divide out a particular name. So I go, I want to divide out sort of the first name to the last name, for example. And I don't have that kind of here. I could do some suggestions, but I actually want to divide them out because I want to be able to filter based on last name. So it would be, I could go, please divide out first name and last name. And I might even go, sometimes it can help to say that it's in column B, for example. You wouldn't have to. It's pretty good at actually recognizing and finding things based on like the name column. And I'll put it into 2 columns, beside it, for example. Now, if I didn't say beside it, more often than not, it's going to jump over to sort of the far right-hand side and put it at the end. So let's have a look. So it's splitting. Now, I could have said based on a particular delimiter, a delimiter being the space between the first name and the last name. Okay, so it goes, yep, drag these, how do I handle? And it's like, yep, this is what I want to do. Oh, of course, now it doesn't want to do. So let's just go, let's go in column B, use the space delimiter to divide out first name and last name. Of course, it worked 2 seconds ago. I should just copy and paste my one there. Here we go. Apply. There we go. And of course, it's doing some conditional formatting today. Okay, that'd be the way, isn't it? Done, made, change. Considering I do this all the time, I don't know. Maybe I'm typing it in a little wrong for this particular one, but I do play around with this and adjust it. So if I'm, for example, let's come over to here. This one here, I'm regularly dividing information. So for the description column, let's go and I'll put it in here because this is information that I will go online. So for example, I will go to the Microsoft Roadmap. And in the Microsoft Roadmap, it's got everything that's going on. So I often will filter it down based on a topic and then download the report because I will be, chatting with clients around things that are new. So for the description, divide the data after, and you'll see here, I've actually got my colon, and I say after and into the next column. So we'll go rightio. Didn't want to do the name. Let's see if it'll do it here for me on this one. Generating it. Okay. So I do this because what I want is I want the product. So I want kind of what is that topic? What is it actually about? So that it will divide out and insert in those columns. Here we go. So there's the description and the description details. So I can have them separated out. So I will divide a text afterwards and go, I want the description detail, and it could be delete everything after. I could come through and go delete everything after, that colon as well. So I can remove content. So these are sorts of things that I will do. What I particularly like is up the top, Copilot has some suggestions to clean up your data. So this is a bit of a new functionality that's flown in just recently. So from here, it could be, I've got some redundant extra spaces. Do you want to remove them? There's some inconsistent text actually going on. Would you like to update? So yes, let's update any inconsistencies. It might have, let's go remove. I can see that it's got column D's got some inconsistent. See how it's got all this inconsistent kind of text? I can go through and apply. See how it's got one capital, but now it's got a lowercase. So what happens is, the great part about this is it means that as I work my way through and I fix this up, when I filter or I search, it's going to be much easier for me to be able to pick and choose it from that drop-down list. So I don't end up with multiple ways of being able to work with it. So remove those redundant spaces. Okay. So I've got all my information starting to kind of play with. What else? If I come in here, here's a sort of a bit of a survey report, having done this previously. And I'm kind of want to sort of get a little bit of an idea of, what's going on in this data. So I'm just going to get it to review the attendee feedback from the survey and, identify any kind of major themes for me, because I've got all these open-ended questions. So it becomes that little bit harder for me to actually analyze information, because if it's something I could put into a chart, it's fairly easy. But this is not stuff that's necessarily easy to get into a chart. So what it's going to do is start looking at some of the descriptions and the information that it actually sees there in this form. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so now it says training pace duration. They felt it was a little rushed. There's not enough information. We had trainers. We had about 5 trainers kind of coming in doing different things. They were praised for patience, knowledge, enthusiasm, follow-up, ongoing support. They want some more practical hands-on learning, and that they would like to have some sort of tailored content along the way. Now that, and giving me a bit of a kind of a summary, I could ask for a summary of a particular column, for example, but I like kind of that, feedback as to kind of what's going on in here. It could also be, I've got the major themes. Now, what about if I was doing something like, let's get something new. Let's go back. And now I'm going to do something like, because I've got all these kind of words and analysis. And if I do this, it's not going to work very well. So let me go copy something. So I go in column F, because in column M here, there's lots of technology. See, it says SharePoint, Teams, Planner, OneDrive, lots of words. Now, the team actually asked an open-ended question. What applications would you like to learn more about? Which is really tough for me to then try and draw that data out, because I could go through and kind of go do a bit of a count. But in here, if I just go, can you tell me how frequently and are there ever? Now, it's not going to necessarily like me doing it here. It's going to want to go into more of a deeper analysis. So if I ask this question, it's going to do a bit of analysis. But I might sort of say, I couldn't find. See, it says, okay, can't find what it is that you're trying to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to go do a deeper analysis using Python. So, rightio, it's going to start kind of having a little bit of a look at information, and it'll start getting it ready. I'm going to go start with a little bit think deeper. So it's coming in here. Now it's going to start kind of diving down into my information. And I could even start to go, okay, you know, what is it going to start looking at? And I actually want to be asking about the technology. Now it's doing a bit of a deep dive of other information. It's going to go through and look at all the various things in terms of some of the sentiment, the positivity and negativity of it all. You know, there's going to be plenty that it actually looks at from here. So I'll give it a chance, you know, processing the data, summarizing, having a look at what it can actually do, descriptions. So this is all the things that it's going to have a bit of a play with. I'm going to let it do its thing for now, pressing the button. Or what I could have done was actually paste in, using deeper analysis in column N, tell me. Okay, so it's now running some code. Okay, of course, must be with it collapsing a little bit today. It's not doing a few things. And of course, I've done them already 4 or 5 times this afternoon. I'm going to come in and go instead using Python, deeper analysis, think deeper. I'm going to go stop it and let's do this instead. All right, stop working. And ask then the question of my data. See now if it'll give it to me. I might have to go back to my original. Everything ready? So I'll do this because, you know, I want to know how frequently they've actually chosen these are the topics that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of doing some more training on Teams, SharePoint, OneNote, and Planner. But have they actually been talked about enough? So here we go, frequency, and there we go. Teams, OneNote, OneDrive, Power BI, Form, Sway, Access. This is how frequently it was actually mentioned. So now I start to get a little bit of an idea of what I might actually focus on, doing some deeper analysis of all of this information back here, because there's a lot of data actually going on. And now it tells me exactly how many times as part of also my analysis. So it's pulling information out. So I will do this quite a bit. I will do, you know, what was the general, you know, sentiment, basically. I might say something like that. For example, what is the general sentiment of the responses in this survey? So I can get a bit of an idea about, you know, how do they actually feel as well. So it will do a bit of a correlation. It'll do some of the what sits in the negative, what sits in the positive, and flow through with some of that deeper analysis. Now, there's so many things that you could actually do and play around with. It's just taking a moment this afternoon, of course, to do it. It's always the way. We've had some challenges on this session. Here we go. Sentiment distribution of the survey feedback. And more often than not, I will even do things like charts off the back of this to give me a bit of an idea. Off the back of this as well, I might say, can you give me a chart as it works its way through? Can you give me a chart for the frequency of Microsoft Tech? And then just start that again. The storm's been having some fun today. Copilot is not a 2016 functionality. You'll actually need your more upgraded version of Office to be able to work with. Okay. You don't have the icon. If you don't have the icon, it's because you actually don't have a license. You actually need the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, either for consumer and or enterprise, for you to be able to work with this. Okay, so that's doing its thing, applying its finishing touches. And it really doesn't want to play nicely with me today, unfortunately. some of that demo data. More often than not, I will do even things like, for example, in here I've got training hours, and I might sort of flow through training cost per hour, for example, and I want to know how much equipment, onboarding. If I go training hours, cost per hour, how much did it cost us for our training hours? So it could be a, please insert a formula column on how much did it cost for our training hours. There we go. So it will have a look at training hours, the training cost per hour. Now, I will, for example, on this previous, whilst it's doing that, on that previous formula sheet, I had everyone kind of saying things like OneNote as separate words or OneDrive as separate. I went through and asked it to do things like, can you actually separate out or join together anywhere that it finds one note with a space, join it together, so it would work its way through and fix all of those kind of things throughout my whole spreadsheet, so that when I was sorting and filtering it made a little bit more sense. So here we go, calculating the cost. So I can see here and do that formula. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how it could actually be built and what's going on. It might be a session that we actually have to, run again. There's been some fun day today with some errors going on. I'd say that the system just needs a complete restart with the weather going on today. Might not have been the best day to choose when we've got a bomb cyclone actually happening. There's lots of great information that's available online, frequently asked questions about Copilot in Excel. Don't forget, we've actually got more sessions that are coming up, plus the previous sessions. Go and have a look at the Working Smarter blog. Microsoft have got some really good content in there around how you can actually do this in terms of productivity tips. I've got some support in the presentation, further training and documentation, how you can actually work with a lot of this. Don't forget, have a look in the scenario library. It will help you to kind of understand a bit more day in the life of and the ways that you can learn some of this information. Microsoft Learn has some fabulous content from both basic right through to advanced in Copilot, whether it be agents or studio or going a little bit further. There is the blog and what's actually new and what's happening. Go and have a look. My wheel is there, but the true power is going in and playing. Start from some of the real core basics and have a bit of a play, and then start stretching it out. And unfortunately, stretch out didn't want to work for me today. The presentation is available for you, and hopefully you've enjoyed the session for what it was worth. And having a little bit of a play. And cross fingers we can get it working again for you. It just is what it is right now. But thank you very much all. Thank you for joining.